Okay, we are live for day 2 at the Queensland Mining Exhibition. And this is our third live podcast, actually. I can't count. Second one today. And today we have Sean from Kaseya joining us. And
Thanks
Sean is the VP of Business Development at Kaseya. And Kaseya, Sean will tell us more about it, but Kaseya are a partner to the IT providers around the world. So that's the easiest way I can describe it. We use a lot of their services to deliver outcomes for our clients. So Sean, welcome and thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me, Tom. I'm excited to be here. It's one of my first live appearances. Instead of being on stage, I'm actually doing it from my study. So this is great.
Nice good, there you go. So with your hoodie, I saw your hoodie there, showing that off before.
I've got my Kaseya hoodie with me. Look, a little bit about where I came from, just so the audience know a background. I ran an IT company for 18 years as well. Look, I had a great time doing it, but saw a lot of businesses be compromised with security. So my end game now is just to make sure that we're getting the word out there on how end users can be more protected. And that's through managed service providers like yourself, Tom. So we're excited to be here. Kaseya itself, some security company worldwide. Our home base is in Miami, but here in Australia, we're in Sydney. We've got about 180 staff in Sydney. And our end game there is honestly to make sure that the MSPs get the experience that they deserve in regards to software solutions in the security stack. And that's what we do with you. So thanks for having me.
No, my pleasure. And I think it's it's certainly an interesting space, the security element. We know it's not going anywhere. It's a continual challenge. And I think one of the things that I found great working with you guys is we can get a little bit more clarity around how we can help protect users and what the tools available are. And I think that's why we've partnered quite well with you guys with some of those solutions, not just our operational stuff, but the endpoint protection and the monitoring and the backup and all the bits. So, mate, I'd love to, I'd just like to get a bit of your insights into where you see the security landscape today from an end user perspective, from an end client perspective. I mean, as MSPs, we're challenged with it every day. We're talking to clients about it every day, but I'd love to see it from your perspective at that global level. I guess you've got a lot more insight than I certainly would.
It is interesting, and it's I ran MSP from 2002 all the way up, and it's so similar to what we're seeing. End users are still being attacked from a cybersecurity landscape. AI is such a big impact right now. There's one circulating the internet right now about a user who used AI to get a job for a cybersecurity company. So if you haven't seen that one yet, do some research on that one.
I'll look up that one. Jeez.
Yeah. It's all about the cybersecurity and cyber, I guess, criminals that are out there are trying to attack anyone from small business all the way through to enterprise. It's now a business. We know that the dark web actually have communities out there on how to infiltrate people, and you can go and buy particular packages that will help you do phishing campaigns and cyber as a service or cybersecurity as a service. So it's harder for us, the end user. It's harder for you, the MSP, to identify what is a breach or what is a scam and what isn't real. And I think that's the hardest thing, is when something looks too good to be true. My mum used to tell me all the time, if it's too good to be true, Sean, it probably is. It's the same with what we're doing right now with cybersecurity. It's the end user needs a lot of training. So if you're an organization who isn't training an end user, I think that's an investment that you should look at doing from a cybersecurity point of view. You still need your antivirus. You still need EDRs, the endpoint detection response, which are all packages that we can do here at Kaseya and with yourself, Tom. We saw something happen last week. The CrowdStrike got impacted, and it sort of highlighted a lot of things to the world that wasn't a cyber attack.
But that's the scary thing. And that's, I think, the reality of, I think it's hit home a little bit more. Obviously, that was devastating impact, and that had so much ramification that, but that's only a taste of what could happen at scale, which is scary as. Like, that's phenomenal of the impact one application had on the internet.
Yeah, 100%. And that's the scary thing in all our worlds. My world, your world. one accident, one deployment of a file brought down all those applications. And like, we look at what we can do and what you can do in that world, because we always look back and go, okay, how can we support our partners in that event that it impacted us? Having an EDR, well, that's not going to stop it. Having
that doesn't
antivirus.
stop a software application issue. And
No.
I mean, all those organizations had the right tools in place.
Tools.
They would have been running Windows, latest version of Windows, running a well-known EDR platform. And you sort of, look, we don't know the ins and outs of it. There was obviously a mistake made somewhere, which is what we hope has actually happened, and it wasn't something more sinister. But the reality is that's as we said, that's an example of how, and you said it, we said it off air before we started, was that's a perfect example of all the tools in the world aren't going to get you back up and running if something happens.
Yeah, correct. You need to have a good BCDR plan behind you, something that you can roll back as soon as possible, as quick as possible, and that has been the story for the last 8 years. No matter what happens, you still need that run flat tire to get you to the next spot, and that's with a solution that can get you there. And how risk averse is your business? How long can you be offline for? All this information you need to ask yourself, and then you can choose a solution that would work down that side of the world. So,
that's right. And it's always, as you say, it's always been the case. And you look at all the standard frameworks, the Essential 8, NIST, whatever they are. I mean, we've got prevention and detection and all the tools. But at the end of the day, none of it matters unless we can recover. And we've seen it firsthand, where we've got the tools in place, but someone does something stupid and they ransomware something, or they've clicked on a link and it's been in the system, all these sort of things. But the only thing that got them out of trouble was restoring.
And that's what we're seeing more and more requirement on. And I think that's the way of the future. Like, if you look at, we're digressing a little bit from what we're going to talk about, but if you look at M365, they openly say, look at a different backup solution than what we've got. They go to a third-party solution for your M365 solution, because they know that if anything happens on their side, you can recover and you can do what you need to do on your side. So I think when people are putting their hand up saying that, like a Microsoft, then it's clear as day that you need to look down.
And I think people don't realize the requirement around that either. They go, well, I've got my stuff in 365 and Dynamics or whatever they're using. If they're not going to go offline, that's Microsoft. They'll get us back up and running. Well, they will from an infrastructure perspective. That's their game, but there's no guarantee they're going to get all your data back. They'll get you the service back and running, but you've got to be able to get your data back.
And they've got information out there which says, when you remove a disabled user, you've only got 30 days to recover any of their data.
Yeah, that's right.
And most people, government, mining, anyone like that, still require their data for 10 years. And if you can't recover a user profile, well, then you've got nothing.
Then you're in trouble. The compliance element. So it's a challenging space, and we talk about recovery a lot, but as we sort of go down, I mean, the detection is still critical, because I was talking to someone this morning, and it's this dwell time that I think people underestimate, of how long a threat actor potentially lives in an environment before they action something. And that's just as scary, because even if they go to a ransomware and you restore it, well, you're restoring what potentially was already there for them to do it again. So it's a double-edged sword in that sense. You've got to be doing the detection and the protection at the same time.
And another tool that we'll touch on, like one thing that we've got here at Kaseya in our tool set, is penetration testing. Because you can have all the systems in place and you think you're protected, but unless you've got something that can actually penetrate or test the penetration into your environment and external, you don't know what you don't know. So we've got that protection.
Yeah, and that's been really good. It's one of the things we've recently started doing with our clients through you guys. Is it's one of those things that everyone talks about. We got to get a penetration test. We got to do a vulnerability assessment, but it can be really expensive to do on a regular basis, and that's a deterrent. So most people will probably only do it once a year if they're lucky. But a lot changes in that time frame. So what we've found with the penetration tool is we can do it a lot more often, for clients for a significant reduction and identify those threats a lot earlier.
Yeah, because zero day vulnerabilities, right? Just for a firewall, for example, we are a single entity. We want to know what's happening out in the world, but sometimes things like that get missed. Firewalls don't get updated. Patching doesn't happen on some applications. You might be doing everything from a third-party patching, Microsoft patching, but then there's something that just you can't find or you don't know, and then you do a vulnerability test or you do a penetration test into that environment and you identify it. So we're actually telling partners now to the end users that you should be really scanning your environment every month. There should be some sort of test to ensure that you can stop hackers coming into your system. And the way to do that is to literally self-hack. And that's what this does. Our penetration testing solution hacks into your environment. If we can get through, it shows where it went through, how it got through, and what remedy you need to do to fix it. And I think a lot of people take for granted that they've got this environment, it's all up to speed, but they're not testing it. You're not checking the locks at your front door to see if the criminal can get in. And that's so we're seeing a lot of people uptake this solution with us right now, and it's good to see, because it's certainly something that I think us as MSPs haven't had the ability to do, because, like you said, cost was always a factor. And if pen test can cost up to 30, 40 grand, and that's
that's right.
Small businesses can't do that.
No, and that's generally, we're in that. We know what the economy's like at the moment, and particularly in our space, it's a real challenge, because everything is a monthly cost. So it doesn't matter what we talk about now. We've got to add this, we've got to do that. But the challenge is you kind of need to, but you need these systems to verify that what you're doing is right as well. And that's where the pen test and the vulnerability scan comes in is great. Well, yes, we're running it for our clients, but we know it's being done by a third party. So we can't manipulate those results. The results are the results. So which is good, which is what you want, because
you're testing yourself.
We want to be tested as well. It's we're not perfect as an MSP, and we can't. There's an element of there that we can't be expected to know it all either. We can have we have a great understanding of what should happen and what needs to happen and what the recommendations are. But some of the intricacies in the way these attacks work and originated and the way they're executed, well, that's the specialty of a vulnerability in a pen test.
Yeah, I agree 100%. The real world simulation that we can do eliminates your side of the world. So it's just, okay, can we get through? Okay, Tom, here's the areas we got through. We need to resolve those. And you got to do that monthly, because, like I said, there's so many updates that are happening, so many zero-day vulnerabilities that are being released that no one knows about. And that's why it's a zero-day vulnerability.
Yep. Yeah, and that's the thing. You could sit on those the sites all day, every day, and look at all the different risks and issues that have been identified and all the vulnerabilities. No one's got the time for that. So that's why these sort of tools are designed to be. Well, they're the guys doing it. So you guys are the ones sitting there mindlessly going through that stuff to make sure that when we do these scans, they're going to pick it up. So yeah.
And I know that you're also got the EDR side of the world that we release. So endpoint detection response is what it stands for. So if any of the machines out there are compromised with anything that looks abnormal or different to what a solution would be, our system will pick that up, make sure they detect it, obviously, and then either resolve, respond, and let you know what's happening on those machines. So there's certainly that side of security that's there.
I think that's a good point, though, because we talk about antivirus, we talk about EDR, we talk about XDR, we talk about there's all these. We love acronyms in IT. It's just the way we go. But I think it's a good point of EDR is very different to antivirus. Antivirus is what we've always had, and it's very much the way I describe it is signature based. It's a known threat. That's what antivirus picks up. EDR looks for, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but this is the way I look at it. EDR obviously sits beside antivirus, and it has obviously a signature base to it, but it's also looking for anomalous activity, like things that shouldn't be happening.
And that's exactly right. It's real time threat detection. So it's stuff that's happening. Whereas an AV picks up your your attempts from a phishing campaign or DLL files that have changed a little bit. Whereas, yeah, your EDR will pick it up from suspicious behavior that shouldn't be there or potential threats that are real time that are happening. So you hit it on the head.
Yeah, and it's looking more as well at the activity on the network as well, because when we talk about adversaries and threat actors sitting in networks, that dwell time, they're sitting there potentially idle, and at some point they send a request back to their home base, and that's what we're looking to pick up with these things.
Yeah. So ransomware detection services are part of the EDR stuff as well, and you hit it on the head. If a hacker will put a payload, it's called a payload, that'll sit on a laptop or a desktop or a server, and they won't enact that payload for 40 days, 30 to 40 days. Why? Because a solution that maybe someone's put in place from a backup point of view will only go for a month, 30 days. So what they do is they make sure that you're backing up that system with their payload. Then at the 31st day, 40th day, they'll enact the payload. You go, oh no, we've been compromised. Okay, I'll recover. I've got a backup. This is under control. You recover from that backup, not knowing that you're actually putting the payload back on the system. You think that you've done well. And then what they do, same thing, 15, 30 days, they'll do it again and get more money from you and just keep that cycle going.
And that's what it's about, is it's a financial incentive for them. They're only after the money.
100%. Yeah, it's all about the cash. Sometimes you'll be impacted. Your personal brand from a company point of view will be impacted. You'll be downtime. You want to be up as soon as possible, so you might pay the ransom, even though we advise not to. But that's just to get you operational. I need to get operational. I don't want my partners to know. But here in Australia, we do have to notify if we are breached. There is a 50 million now.
Okay.
If you haven't. So there's a lot of information that's coming out from our government to make sure that we are protecting ourselves more, which is great because we should be. I'm just one. I'll put my hand up that I want to mandate companies that should have a security posture of some sort. Either that's basic of essential aid, or essential aid 2, NIST framework, something where we know that it's mandated that companies have to have it.
Well, I think we're heading that way. I don't think we're far. We've obviously got the critical infrastructure bill, which sort of goes down that path for those core industries and things like that, and that has a flow-on effect to anyone servicing those organisations as well. So, but I think you're right. There's director liability in place now and things like that from a cyber perspective. But I don't think we're too far off having that mandate, I guess. And Essential 8, whilst it's not mandated, it's probably the closest and probably the strategy that would be adopted most easily, I guess, because you can't make it over the top either, because the plumber down the road has a very different security posture to the bank. So you can't have the same standard apply everywhere. So it's going to be a real challenge.
Yeah, I agree. It needs to be strong enough that that hackers don't want to get into your systems, but it needs to be easy enough that the plumber can create the systems to get it done. And that's where the likes of you, Tom, come into play, and you can do an audit on an environment, make sure that the small business understands what their risks are. Because some people with their hand up and say, look, I don't need a backup solution that I'll recover in a day. I need a backup solution that I can get going in a week, because if we're down, it won't impact our business. As long as they know that risk and we have advised them of that, then that's fine. But we're finding companies that want to be instantaneously up and operational after an attack or after an outage, and those sort of people need to know the risks that are involved in what does impact from a ransomware attack or outage of some sort.
And that's it. I mean, it's that understanding your risk appetite as well as an organisation, and that ties into for some businesses, I say in that financial services sector, which we do quite a bit of work in. There's obviously mandates from ASIC and APRA and organisations going down ISO, so they have to meet a level of compliance. But it doesn't mean that everyone has to, and that's where I think some people get a little bit stuck in the sand as well. It's too hard. I don't know where to start. I don't know how to go. And you've hit it. I mean, doing some sort of assessment against a framework, doesn't matter which one, do it against something. So you've got an idea of what you where you should be looking.
Yeah, yeah, and that's where pen testing comes into play as well, because if we're demonstrating that real risk, that real world risk, sorry, when you do that test, and then you can then go, well, okay, I understand that's how a hacker is going to get into our systems and how they can target us. And then the end user comes into play, right? End user information. I went to a security conference, right? This is one of my great stories. I went to a security conference with IT professionals. The security conference put USB keys on every table. It was a round table conference. You know, USB keys free, branded. You know, I won't name the company, but branded. MSPs, the IT providers, all grabbed them. Fantastic, free USB key, 26 gig, whatever it was. Plug it in their laptop, do what they're doing. Someone's up on stage and they're talking about what they find. You know, people plug things in that they don't really know about. Everyone's like, yeah, I would never do that. Press the button up on stage. Everyone's laptops who plugged in those USB keys went red. Right.
Yeah, right.
And so these are professionals in our industry who straight away plugged in a free USB key that they thought was
a random USB key.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's the training element. I mean, we should know better. I mean, I'll stick the USB key in because I want to know what's going on. That's the only reason. But a lot of it is, I found this will be great. I can store whatever. But it's it's that awareness factor, I think, is a challenge. And that's, I mean, a little bit again off topic, but the whole awareness discussion is a challenge in itself, because it's been done to death. Videos and training and all that, and people just don't engage. And that's a real challenge that we're finding, and we've got a few innovative ways that we're structuring that. But the awareness training is so critical, and it needs to be updated and refreshed, and it's got to be, but it has to be engaging, because we've got so much going on. Yeah.
And that's where I find MSPs, the way you get engagement is you create a phishing campaign. You know, you send it out to that small medium business. It might be their salary review, or what we're seeing right now is group certificates here in Australia, because obviously that's where we're at.
Tax time. Right?
Tax time, ATO, all this stuff. So MSPs are creating a fake email to go out, see who will click on it. And it's the engagement after that. So, hey, you clicked on that, silly goose, you shouldn't have done that. Hey, come into the boardroom. We'll go through a 4-hour training session on what you should and shouldn't do. And then next quarter, we'll do the same thing and see if you click it. We do it at Kaseya. Internally, we do all the phishing campaigns to try and catch us, because we're the same as any other organization. If one of us click on a link, then it could cause some damage internally. So
we're exactly the same. Yeah. We do phishing tests, and it's amazing who clicks it. And it's, I mean, some of it is that they're clicking it because they want to see how the payload and all that sort of stuff happens, and we do it in our testing labs. But even some of the team are sort of, okay, maybe that Amazon special would be nice. And off they go. But that's how easy it is.
Yeah, and all the SMS phishing campaigns are happening, or phishing.
SMS is all, a killer,
all part of it. AI, we're seeing more and more voice campaign or voice phishing as well. So we're seeing people who grab 3 seconds of voice and use that. There's a great story in the States of a lady who got compromised. Her daughter rang her asking for money to be transferred into a particular bank account. She did it, rang the daughter back. Daughter said it wasn't me. But transferred the money, because there's solutions there.
And the scary thing is we have to be paranoid. That's the reality. It's a way. Like, I answer the phone now. If I don't know the number, I'll answer the phone and I'm silent till someone says something. Like, it's weird, but it's like, I'm not really sure. I'm pretty sure that is a scam. I'll just answer it and wait till someone says hello. Yeah. So
what about I'm now being told to take your voicemail off, because if you answer the call, then they can take 3 seconds of voice.
Oh, geez, because that's all it takes now. You don't need much audio to clone a voice, and that's the scary part of AI at the moment. I mean, AI has so much potential. I think we're early days still, but it's scary what they're going to use it for from a threat actor perspective.
Yeah, this year, next year, like, we're going to see the environments change for all of us, right? It's going to be great from a work point of view. It's going to be great, effective, efficient. We're going to be able to do so many things we can't do. But when that happens, bang, threat actors come to play. And
correct. That's right.
Straight away when this incident happened on Friday, there was already people coming out talking about how we can get you operational as soon as possible. Let us remote in
Mate,
your machine.
they had websites up and
And
running
we know what they're doing.
within hours. The CrowdStrike recovery websites and all sorts of stuff. They had people on phones, like they had full call centers running to do scams. Like it's, as you said in the beginning, it is a business. It's massive, and the volume. I mean, it's bigger than I think all the cartels are starting to go into it. Rather than drugs, there's more money in it than drugs.
Yeah, that's a common knowledge. I just love that there's an actual appreciation service on the dark web. So if you don't like your ransomware as a service that you delivered, you can give them 1 star, and no one will download it. Oh, wow.
It's a full. I must say, I've never been game to jump on there and have a look, but just the stories you hear and a bit of the research. But it's true. They got. I'm just trying to create this, and they got a full help desk service. Like, Anyway, you get that. So we digress, but it's a challenge. Security is a real challenge for organizations. Where do you see things going in the next sort of 6, 12, 18 months from that security, from an endpoint perspective and that side of things? And Kaseya as general, obviously you've got a lot of insight, I guess, from there. Where do you guys see it heading?
Look, Kaseya 10 years ago, 15 years ago, we started as 2 products, right? And what we've identified is that security is the bit where we need to help MSPs with their end users the most. So a lot of investment has gone into that aspect for us at Kaseya. We have over 10 products that we can now give from a security platform point of view. But what we're starting to see is AI. Yes, we've spoken about that. That's taking over. End user support, we still need to go down that path, and training is one of the biggest ones that we're seeing. But the next 12 to 18 months, I think it's going to be a huge game changer. We're seeing so many devices are connected to the internet now. You know, even cars, air conditioners in your house, fish tank thermometers we talk about. So many Internet of Things devices where hackers can come into your environment. So if you're not doing some sort of scanning on a regular basis to make sure that all these ports are shut and that all these 0-day vulnerabilities have been patched, then that's where you're going to come behind the 8 ball a lot, I feel, and what we're seeing at Kaseya. So we'll certainly invest a lot more into our pen testing platforms, into our antivirus, into our EDR. Our SOC services are probably a large one that we've invested a lot of money in over the last year. Security Operating Center. We want MSPs to have the ability to have their end users covered 24/7. And you don't have the staff to do that. We do. So we can help you down that landscape as well. So we're seeing a lot down that side. Mate, if you are, what's going to happen in the next 3 months, let alone 12 to 18 months?
Yeah, that's right. It's mate, it's what keeps me up at night. It's like it's sort of those things. You're running it. We've got however many clients that rely on us to do this and make these decisions, essentially make these decisions for them. What's going to be the best outcome for their business as well. And mate, I can tell you that's the stuff that keeps me up at night, because I can tell you what, there was a moment on Friday night where I was thankful to whatever Lord might listen that we didn't deploy that particular tool. Not by any choice other than, I mean, we could have easily selected that product because there was nothing wrong with it.
And that's it. It's one of the best. It's, complete competitor one about to us. But it can happen to anyone, right? And that's one thing we tell everyone. That's where your BCDR framework has to come into play. You still need to protect. We always talk about that silver hat. You don't want your tinfoil hat on all the time. You still need to enjoy what you do, and you can't be walking around not paying on your Visa card, and cashless society that we're moving down. All your data is on the dark web already, if you didn't know that. So you just need to make sure that you're risk adverse. Where do you sit? And then you're protecting yourself the best you can.
And knowing, I think you hit it, knowing that you're already compromised. The reality is we are already compromised. The dark web they clearly have my mobile number. They have my email address. They know who I am. I've had phone scams knowing, well, might have been a bloody good guess, but they knew who my bank was and they pretended to be that bank, and the credit card I opened. It's like, that's pretty bloody good. And it can only come from one place, the dark web in that. So But knowing that risk, yeah, I mean, yeah, you're right. We can't all walk around with tinfoil on our heads, and sometimes I just want to sit in my room and rock sideways. But
Just cry.
yeah, definitely, it could have been that way. But it's yeah, and I think it's good, and we hear a lot of stories now. And I mean, I've never seen LinkedIn go so hard on one topic. That was the most I've seen LinkedIn blow up. But now we're seeing that whole risk of, well, we've got all our eggs in one basket now. So we've all got Microsoft, we've all got CrowdStrike, whatever. But the reality is that's just the way it is. That's the way the world is transitioning. We've still got to know where those risks lie. How do we mitigate them? And to your point, how do you recover? Because that's going to be ultimately what saves every business.
Yeah. And back on our point right at the start, compliance to a security framework of some sort. Just make sure that you are aligned to a particular framework. It could be multiple, doesn't have to be one. But
make one up, doesn't matter. Like it's do something.
Do something. The worst thing is doing nothing. You know, when do we start? Today.
Yesterday, but
yeah.
But you're right. And if people, I mean, one of the things we do talk, like as we say, we're talking about antivirus and EDR and SOC and all these things. It's all confusing, but at the end of the day, and I think you have said it, and I've said it before, is if you do nothing else, just make sure your data is backed up. Make sure it's backed up, and you know how to recover it, and you know what that downtime is going to look like. Because if it's not if, it's when, and that's a really cliche thing to say, but it's just reality now. And we've seen it. We've actually seen it real time play out last weekend. So
and even if you asked me a week ago before what happened, I would have said the exact same thing, because that's the mantra that I've always lived down, is that like we can do whatever we can to make sure we're not going to get compromised, but we will.
It's the thing I've said all the way through in my MS, and I've been doing this for 14 years or 25 years, whatever it is in the industry. But back up, just know where your data is. I can tell you, it's the one thing I'll come in every week, righto. Has someone been through every single backup log for the week? Have we tested all the clients we need to test? Have we done it all? Are we happy? Yep, we're happy. Okay, good. Right, I can sleep this week. So, but yeah, just jump up and down. No, that's great. So we sort of looked at it, this security landscape. We've got endpoints, we've got network, we've got backup, we've got all these elements. We both agree that backup is critical, and that's where we should start. As we go through, I mean, Kaseya has a suite of products around there, that endpoint, the SOC. What are other considerations, I mean, outside of those that you're seeing organizations start to look at now?
Documentation, big one.
Okay.
It's all well and good to have all these security softwares and whatnot there as well, but you've got documentation for yourself, for your clients, but the end user also needs to have some sort of documentation, and that business continuity plan, a BCP. Like we're speaking about backup, that's fine, but how do you do that? When shit's on fire, believe me, you need to be able to pull up a document and go, okay, this is our first step. And if you've got cyber insurance, believe me, that's your first step. You call them, because if you don't, then that cyber insurance plan is pretty much out the window. Because
that's an interesting point. So you're saying if you've got cyber insurance, which I recommend everyone should have some level of it, so your first point of call should always be to the insurer.
100%. Yeah, we've seen here in Australia where people have gone and enacted what they believe they need to do, and then they need to go back and get their cyber insurance policy and get some money back. But because they didn't ring the cyber insurance company to say that they were going through an outage of some sort of something, they wiped it.
There's a real fear, and I know that clients have a fear of, okay, I've been ransomware or whatever it is. I don't want that to get out. I don't want people to know. Can we just restore it and get it back up and running, and no one will be the wiser? And maybe in some instances you can, but okay.
So cyber insurance, and we're seeing a lot more. We're quite lucky, or we've got a solution for cyber insurance here at Kaseya, where we can help end users and MSPs get cyber insurance for their end user. But we're seeing a lot of people out there who don't want to get cyber insurance because they feel that, I've got to go through so many different bits of paperwork. It's going to take me forever. The policies change. It's going to cost too much.
Well, I don't even understand the policy or what I'm getting.
That's right. And they've kind of tick the wrong box. So one, you have to get yourself involved, an MSP or an IT professional involved. And two, you have to go down that path to understand what you're covered for and what you're not covered for. You know, and it's like house insurance. You get house insurance because you know that one day something might happen. You know, the floors might flood or the walls might fall down, whatever happens. Well, it's the same thing in business and cyber insurance. So I'm a big advocate for it. We're seeing a lot of people go down that path with us right now. I think we touched on the other ones. You know, that's where Kaseya's bread and butter is.
Excellent. Well, mate, Sean, that's been fantastic. I think there's been some awesome insights into that today. And as we both said, just get your stuff backed up and know how to recover it. That's probably the key takeaway from today. Mate, Sean, I'd like to thank you for
and I think
your
also,
support of, sorry, you go.
No, and I was also just going to say, like, you know, making sure that you're testing your system, vulnerability scanning, pen testing, making sure you're actually checking what's in your house, and if someone can get through in the front door is always a good way as well. So those pen tests are something I'd certainly ensure that I'm getting one a quarter at least. That is my least recommendation.
No, excellent. Sean, thank you. And mate, thank you very much for your support here at the QME event this week. Much appreciated. And as I say, we did go live and we're live, but this will be recorded. So anyone, you can watch it again and we'll certainly be using it. So thanks, Sean.
Thanks, Tom. I appreciate it, mate. Have a great day.
You too. Cheers.